Crystal from the local counselling centre, and today I want to talk to you about bereavement and grief. Grief, when we lose a loved one, is a normal emotion to experience. It's a really complex process actually, by which we learn to process our emotions and accept the person's death, or it may be a pet or something else that we've lost, but it's about, us trying to adjust to learn how to process that loss. So we call this period being bereaved. Bereavement affects people in different ways. Some days you may feel well and happy, and then you'll have a day when you feel overwhelmed by the loss. You may suffer a series of different emotions, such as distraction, anger, guilt, acceptance and despair. These feelings are all perfectly normal part of the process. The stages of mourning and grief are universal and are experienced by people from all walks of life. Mourning occurs in response to an individual's own terminal illness, the loss of a close relationship, the death of a valued being, human or animal. There are 5 known stages of normal grief that were first proposed by somebody called Elisabeth Kübler-Ross in her 1969 book called On Death and Dying. Now, in our bereavement, we spend different lengths of time working through each step, and we express each stage with different levels of intensity. The 5 stages, though, don't necessarily occur in any specific order. We often move between different stages before achieving a more peaceful acceptance of death. Many of us are not afforded the luxury of time required to achieve this final stage of grief. The death of a loved one might inspire you to evaluate your own feelings of mortality as well. And throughout each stage, a common thread of hope emerges. As long as there is life, there is hope. As long as there is hope, there is life. Now, many people do not experience the stages in the order that I'm going to go through with you, and that's perfectly okay. The key to understanding the stages is not to feel like you must go through every one of them in precise order. Instead, it's more helpful to look at them as guides in the grieving process, so it helps you to understand and put into context where you think you might be. But keep in mind, all people grieve differently. Some people will wear their emotions on their sleeve and will be outwardly emotional. Others will experience grief more internally, and they may not cry. They might even be numb to these feelings. You should try not to judge how a person experiences their grief, because each person will just have their own personal experience of it. So the first stage I want to talk to you about is denial and isolation. The first reaction to learning of a terminal illness or death of a loved one and a cherished person or being is to deny the reality of the situation. It's a normal reaction to overwhelming emotions. It's a defence mechanism, in short, that buffers the immediate shock. We block out the words and we hide from the facts. This is a temporary response that carries us through the first wave of pain. The next stage is anger. So as the masking effects of denial and isolation begin to wear off, the reality and its pain re-emerge. We're not ready. The intense emotion is just deflected from our vulnerable core, and it's redirected and expressed instead as anger. This anger may be aimed at inanimate objects, complete strangers, friends, family. Anger may be directed at the dying or deceased loved one. Rationally, we know the person isn't to be blamed, so it doesn't feel like it makes sense. But emotionally, we may resent the person for causing us pain or for leaving us. We feel guilty for being angry, and this makes us more angry. But remember, grieving is a personal process that has no time limit, nor one right way to do it. A doctor who might have diagnosed or treated the vulnerable person who's unable to cure the disease might become a convenient target. Health professionals deal with death and dying every day. This does not make them immune to the suffering of their patients or those who grieve for them. So maybe you're a health professional and you've experienced a high level of death and bereavement through that. If you're dealing with an illness or a loved one's illness, don't hesitate to ask your doctor to give you extra time to explain just once more the details of your loved one's illness. Arrange a special appointment or ask that they telephone you at the end of the day. Ask for clear answers to your questions regarding any medical diagnosis or treatment. Understand all the options available to you and take your time. The next stage is bargaining. The normal reaction to feelings of helplessness and loss of control and vulnerability is often a need to regain control. So it might come across through saying things like, if only we'd sought medical attention sooner, if only we got a second opinion from another doctor, if only we tried to be a better person towards them. Secretly, we may try and make a deal with God or our higher power in an attempt to postpone the inevitable. This is a weaker line of defence to protect us from the painful reality. The next stage is depression. The two types of depression are generally associated with mourning. The first one is a reaction to practical implications relating to the loss. Sadness and regret predominate this type of depression. We worry about the costs and the burial. We worry that in our grief we've spent less time with others that depend on us. This phase may be eased by simple clarification and reassurance. We may need a bit of helpful cooperation and a few kind words. The second type of depression is more subtle and in a sense perhaps more private. It's our quiet preparation to separate and to bid our loved one farewell. And sometimes all we really need is a hug. The next stage is acceptance. So reaching this stage of mourning is a gift that isn't afforded to everyone. Death can be sudden and unexpected, or we may never see beyond our anger or denial. It's not necessarily a mark of bravery to resist the inevitable and deny ourselves the opportunity to make our peace. This phase is marked by withdrawal and calm. It's not a period of happiness and must be distinguished from depression. Loved ones that are terminally ill or ageing appear to go through a final period of withdrawal. This is by no means a suggestion that they're aware of their own impending death or such that a physical decline may be sufficient to provide a similar response. Their behaviour implies that it's natural to reach a stage at which social interaction is limited. The dignity and grace shown by our dying loved ones may well be their last gift to us. Coping with loss is ultimately a deeply personal and singular experience. Nobody can help you go through it more easily or understand all the emotions that you're going through, but others can be there for you and to help comfort you through this process. The best thing you can do is to allow yourself to feel the grief as it comes over you. Resisting it will only prolong the natural process of healing. Often it's very difficult to talk to friends or family members as they may be going through the same grieving process as you. You may not want to burden them. And that's when talking to a bereavement counsellor can really help. This will give you dedicated time and space to talk through your feelings about the person you've lost in a confidential and safe space. At Local Counselling Centre, we understand how difficult this period can be and we want to support you through this. We have a team of highly experienced counsellors that are experienced in working with grief, loss and bereavement. We have a team of qualified therapists who provide our full cost counselling service, and we also have a team of low cost counsellors who provide our low cost counselling service to those that are on low income. So with our low cost service, counselling can start as low as £15 per session. We can provide counselling in person, we can provide counselling online or over the telephone. If you're not sure about how we can help you, but you've been thinking about seeking support from bereavement, grief, loss, give us a call. We'll talk you through the different options that would be the most suitable for you. You can call us by phoning us on 01462 674 671, and you can talk to our practice manager Kathy, who will talk you through all the different options that are available to you. You can also email us at hello@localcounsellingcentre.co.uk, and remember, we're here to listen.